Hi guys, Steve here with Boomer Fitness, and in this video we're just going to go over some frequently asked questions that we commonly get from some of the members here at the gym. And so I've got 5 questions here that I'm going to go one by one, and I'm just going to fire away some answers for you guys here. So the first one that I commonly get asked is, how many calories should I be eating? Because a lot of times we'll give you guys recommendations on the kind of types of foods you should be eating, give you healthy diet choices, but then the question is, how many calories per day should you be actually consuming? And that's a really good question because it's going to differ depending on the person. A good place to start is to figure out your BMR. That's your base metabolic rate. And where that comes from is 1 pound of fat is about 3,500 calories, 3,500 calories. And the goal is to create a calorie deficit so we can burn off or create a deficit of about 3,500 calories per week to burn 1 pound of fat per week. Or if you wanted to burn about 2 pounds of fat per week, to create a deficit of about 7,000 calories per week. So if you divide 3,500 by 7, that means we need to create a calorie deficit of about 500 per day. And so what BMR is your base metabolic rate or your average daily energy expenditure when you are not being very physically active. So this is kind of like your calories burned at rest. And you can actually easily find that by just going online and using a calculator. You can just go onto a Google search engine and type in BMR calculator. And then it's going to ask for some really general parameters such as your age, height, weight, and gender. And then it's going to give you a rough estimate of what your BMR is. But we're not done yet. So that's just going to be your resting metabolism, sort of. So let's just say you entered in your information and your BMR came out to be, let's say, 1,400. And so that means if we wanted to create a 500 calorie deficit per day and you didn't do anything, you just sat on your couch all day long, then you would need to eat about 900 calories per day to lose about 1 pound of fat per week. But then we can factor in your physical activity. So let's say you're a member here at Boomer Fitness and you go to boot camps most days of the week. So let's say in a good boot camp, you burn maybe 400 or 500 calories, which would be pretty good for a 1-hour boot camp. And let's say you come to boot camps 5 days a week. So you average a little bit less than maybe 400 calories per day of additional calories burned. So let's add that on to your energy expenditure. So now we have 1,400 plus about 400. So now you're burning about 1,800 calories per day. And then let's say you're also following some of the other recommendations we have, and you are just increasing your general physical activity. You're walking more, you're stretching at home, you're maybe parking your car further away, walking to the gym, walking to the grocery store from across the parking lot, and you accumulate another couple hundred calories per day of calories burned. Then that brings your estimated calories burned per day to maybe be about 2,000. So if that is the case, then that would lead us to say that you should consume about 1,500 calories per day to lose about 1 pound of fat per week. So you can see how this is not exact. So it requires a little bit of experimentation. So usually when I'm working with a personal training client, we'll sit down, we'll discuss about how active you are, how many days a week you're working out, and we'll come up with a calorie range and try to figure out about how many calories, give you a range, maybe say for example 1,400 to 1,600 calories per day. And we're gonna see if that works for you, but you do have to do some experimentation. Maybe you set a goal, you keep yourself within that range for a week or two, see if you're happy with the results you're getting, and then make the necessary adjustments as you go. So that's gonna be how we figure out how many calories a day you should eat. So it's gonna require some experimentation, and it's gonna differ from person to person. Next question we often get is, how much protein should I be consuming? And there's a couple different ways we can look at this. In general, for most general health purposes, about 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight is a pretty standard number to shoot for. So in order to find out how many kilograms you weigh, you take your body weight in pounds and divide by 2.2, and that'll be your weight in kilograms. So let's say, for example, I find that, so I weigh about 190 pounds, and I think in kilograms that comes out to like 80 something. Let's say, for example, I weigh 85 kilograms, then I'm gonna try to eat about 85 grams of protein per day. So about 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So that would be the grams per kilogram way of looking at it, which is pretty standard. But then there's also a percentage way of looking at it. Let's say you're going to consume about 20% of your calories in protein, which is also a pretty common number. A little bit on the low end, but we're looking at minimum to see the results that you want to get. So eating more than the minimum amount of protein tends to not be a negative thing, and in some cases can be a positive thing and can be beneficial to weight loss. But let's just say I'm going to eat 25% of my calories from protein. So let's say my calorie target is to eat 1,500 calories per day. So then if I divide that, if I take 25% of 1,500 calories, that is 375 calories. And then the way you can figure out how many grams of protein you need to eat is you can there's actually 4 calories per gram of protein. So if I want 25% of 1,500 calories, it's going to be 375 calories divided by 4, which comes out to about 90 something grams per day. So there's 2 ways of looking at it, and both ways should give you bring you to about the same ballpark if you're looking at about 20% of your diet. But both tend to be, pretty similar in terms of the amount of protein you're going to get per day. So those are 2 methods we can look at to figure out your optimal protein intake. Next question, am I overtraining? So we get a lot of people in here that are coming in, they're working hard, and maybe they're coming to classes and they're doing these hard workouts 7 days a week or maybe 6 days a week. They're pushing themselves really hard. They're getting really sore, and they want to know, am I overdoing it? Am I training too hard? Am I beating my body up too much? Well, overtraining is actually a medical condition, which you can look for certain signs to see if you are actually experiencing what's called overtraining syndrome. And so some of the questions you can ask yourself are, well, first of all, let's talk about overtraining and what it really means. Because overtraining, when you are in a state of overtraining, it means you're overexerting your nervous system. You're putting too much stress on your central and peripheral nervous system to where it can't properly recover, and it's just overworking itself. So some of the symptoms you might experience are going to be physical, psychological, and hormonal symptoms of overtraining. So if you're noticing that you're not sleeping well, you're getting irritable, you're having a lot of joint aches and connective tissue pain, and your muscles aren't recovering well from workouts, then those may be signs that you're overtraining. And usually overtraining doesn't happen over the course of a week or 2. Usually it happens to people that push themselves really hard for weeks on end. So especially if you notice that you're not sleeping well, maybe your immune system is compromised because you're catching more cold, you're getting infections, then maybe you need to slow things down a little bit in the gym and allow your body the recovery time it needs to maintain optimal health, approach your exercise program in a way that's sustainable, and to just have ultimately more success because you're not pushing yourself too hard, but you're pushing yourself just enough to get the results that you want to get. So if you're, am I overtraining? It depends how you're feeling, and you may be if you're experiencing some of those specific symptoms there. So, but otherwise, if you're sleeping fine, you're not getting sick, you're feeling good, but you're just getting a little bit sore, then maybe you're not overtraining. Maybe you just you just pushed yourself a little bit hard in one workout, you got a little bit sore, but that's usually not a big deal. So, okay, next question. How long should I stretch for? So we talk about stretching in here a lot. It's important to not only do the weight training and the cardio, but to improve our flexibility to make sure we have the adequate mobility to do certain exercises. And some people want to know, how long should I stretch for? Should I just go ahead and do each stretch for about 10 seconds, 20 seconds? Like, what actually is a good amount of stretching to do? And when it comes to flexibility, it's good to have an overall approach and to just kind of stretch every muscle a little bit. But in general, you should approach flexibility from in a specific way and try to address your personal problems. And it's important to note that if you have poor posture, if you have poor hip mobility, poor ankle mobility, wherever your problems lie, this is not something that happened overnight. It's not something that happened, over the course of 1 week. Usually this is a result of, years and a very long time of having really poor posture or, poor habits that led to this lack of flexibility. So this is not something that's going to fix itself very quickly. So when it comes to stretching to fix problems, or corrective stretching as we call it, you stretch as much as you need to see results and to see yourself making progress toward attaining greater flexibility or fixing your posture or fixing whatever problems you're working towards. So usually we recommend stretching, at least holding each stretch for 30 seconds, maybe even upwards of a minute if it's a real problem area, because it may take a little while for the muscles to actually release. And continue to do those stretches if you're stretching to improve your posture and you know these are stretches you really need to be doing to achieve that goal of improving your flexibility, then try to do them every day. Do them whenever you get the chance, do them frequently, hold them for a long time, and make sure that you're actually getting somewhere with it and you're not just doing the stretches and going through the motions. So how long should you stretch? You should stretch a lot. You should stretch for a long time. You should do it whenever you get the chance, and you should do specific stretches that are gonna specifically help the problems that you have. So, and then the last question is, why can't I feel certain muscles working? So we come in the gym, we have all these exercises that we're doing, we have all these movements that we're doing, but why can't I feel the right muscles working? A lot of times I'll hear this when we're talking about maybe the core muscles, maybe your hamstrings, maybe some of the muscles in your back. Why aren't these muscles working? Why don't I feel it in the right places? I feel like I'm using good form. And there's a few factors to look at here. First of all, are you doing the exercise correctly? Is your form correct? Are you using the right mechanics? How does your form look? So that's the first of all. That's the first thing. If your form isn't on point and doesn't look good, then you're probably not going to feel the right muscles working. But then let's say maybe your form is good. It looks good in the mirror. It feels right. It feels like you're doing everything right. Well, there could be some other reasons why your muscles aren't working, and that's because there are opposing muscle groups that could be holding you back from working the muscle that you're trying to work in the right way. So one way I can explain this is when you're reading a book or watching a movie or following a storyline, you have the main character who's the protagonist. He's moving the storyline along, usually the good guy, and then you have the antagonist. He's usually the bad guy or somebody who's creating resistance for that main character. He's the antagonist of the story. He's working against you. And when it comes to your body, you have a similar thing going on. There's something called antagonistic muscles or opposing muscle groups. So when it comes to your joints, you usually have muscles that work opposite each other. So one example of this could be if you're trying to work your back and you're trying to pull your shoulder blades back to engage your back muscles, well, the muscles on the opposite side of your body in the front, if they're too tight, those happen to be the antagonistic muscles to your back. They're opposing muscle groups that are too tight, and unless you're able to relax those tight muscle groups, you're not going to be able to activate the muscles on the other side that you're trying to work. Same thing when you look at the arm. If I'm trying to work my biceps on one side as I bend my elbow, if the muscles on the other side, which are the antagonists or the opposing muscle groups to my elbow, are too tight, then I'm not able to flex or to bend my elbow well because it's too tight, it's pulling against it. So a lot of times we need to look and see if you have any muscle imbalances. So one really common example of that is when you're trying to pull your shoulder blades back and work your back, maybe your neck muscles are too tight, your chest muscles are too tight, your shoulder muscles are too tight, and then you're not able to, achieve the contraction you need on the other side because you're getting pulled in the opposite direction. So not only do we need to look at just your form and how you're performing the exercise, there's also antagonist muscles that may be holding you back, or opposing muscles, we could say. And then there's also just motor control and your ability to fire the proper muscles. So there could be a neuromuscular element to it where maybe you just need to perform more repetitions with a light weight to really get that muscle to turn on a little bit, because muscles that haven't been used in a long time, they can become sort of dormant because they've been not used for a while. So you lose the connection. You maybe have heard the term mind-muscle connection, which is kind of a real thing because you lose the ability to engage that muscle on demand. So there's motor control, there is antagonists or opposing muscles holding you back, certain muscles being too tight, and then also, of course, your form needs to be correct to achieve the contraction in the right muscle as you want to have it. So Okay, so there we have it. There's 5 questions asked for you, or answered for you, that you've asked frequently here. I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, and see you guys in the next one. Bye.
I would love to hear what you liked best about this video. So down below, you'll see a comment section. Just leave your comments, and I want to thank you so much for the comments you've been leaving me over the months, and I've been getting back to filling those out. Also down below in the description box, you'll see a link, and in that description box with that link, you want to click it, and it's going to take you to another page where you're going to get 4 free workouts. To get those 4 free workouts, you just have to enter your email address. So go down below, click the link, and we're gonna get you those workouts right away by entering your email address. Also, down below, make sure you click the subscribe button so you get updated when we release all this great content. So thank you again for tuning in. Thank you so much for your comments. Go get your free workouts, and you guys make it a great day.